answer your questions. Or do you want to have a break?
No.
Break or questions? No? Okay. We have an anxious fellow up front here. Just 1 second. Go ahead.
Throughout all your problems in Pender Harbour, where has the MLA been to support you? Like, where has Nicholas Simon been for 20 years here?
Nicholas Simons has been on the other side of the equation here, to be honest with you, is my impression. He is
You're
not,
telling me that he worked for First Nations for 20 years, and that's who
I think you know the answer. We have not received a lot of help from Nicholas. He would come and talk to us, and he gave us a concerned look, but I don't know what he's, from my perspective, and I don't know what goes on behind closed doors. I don't think we got a lot of help from him, and that's one of the reasons why we've brought Pender Harbour and Area Residents Association into being, because we wanted to have a broad base and we wanted to be able to speak for Pender Harbour. And but yeah, it's been a real struggle with Nicholas being our MLA. Now we have Randine Neal, our MLA. She's a neighbor, and we'll see how that goes. But,
does she have a dog?
I don't think she has a dog. No, she doesn't have a dog. But she's a very very pleasant lady, and we'll hopefully get on. We'll see. Okay. All right, the lady in the back there has been waiting very patiently.
Okay, well, initially you asked the question, or pointed out that Section 35 of the Charter says, existing treaties will be respected, and you said this was sort of vague, but I know, for instance, I used to live in Nova Scotia. There was a treaty of 1763, which is still valid, and so there are, and treaties have been signed, and where they haven't been signed, like in BC, then that needs to be figured out, and I know about various decisions. I wanted to say too that, like, I empathize with this consultation process, but people shouldn't be entitled to just cover the foreshore with docks. Like, it destroys it, I don't know, I could go on. So some people I was talking to earlier today, I mentioned that Kate Sutherland, who's a facilitator, is holding a meeting, and it's in the Westview Ratepayers bulletin, and it's next Wednesday. I really think we need to hear from different people. And I'll just raise one more point here that, you also pointed out that, this could affect people's rights, property rights, as if nothing else does. But, there's mining laws that a company can come in, and if they find oil on your property, good luck. They can stake a claim. That those old laws are still legal, actually. And same goes for, like, when the Canadian government signed foreign investment protection agreement with China. That gives the Chinese government the right to challenge. We don't vote for them. And it gives them the right to challenge laws we might pass that they think would infringe on profitability of their companies. So it's not like this is never, there's no precedent for this sort of thing.
Right. I just think that the difference here is that we're in charge of our own laws, and we can vote in our legislature and our parliament and vote them out. What this is introducing is another level of government, and it's the level of government that we don't have a say in voting in and voting out. They are not accountable to us. They don't have to answer to us. We can't remove who's in office. If our legislators are in place and we don't like what they're doing, then we vote them out and we get a new raft of rogues in after 4 years. So I think that's the difference. We just don't have any say. All right, next question.
Very simple question. When's the court going to hear your case?
We have filed in September. The BC is supposed to have their response to us by mid-February. And the shishalh, I believe, are going to be filing a response about 2 weeks after that. So I'm hoping by March 1st that we'll have responses from them. And our lawyers are working towards perhaps having the hearing in the latter part of this year. I wouldn't be surprised if it goes over to 2026, but we're hoping to try and get it heard in 2025. But you got to remember, this will be just the first initial step, and after that, there's the Court of Appeal.
And then it goes to the Supreme Court of Canada after that, if you guys aren't happy.
Right.
Either side.
Right. If
So it could be like years and years and years.
It could be, but I'm hopeful that this might perhaps give the government pause, this lawsuit being in place. So it might give them some pause before they start proceeding with implementation to a great degree. Go ahead at the back.
Yeah, just one brief announcement and two quick questions. The announcement is that just urging everybody, whether you're in the Westview Ratepayers or not, to have a look at the previous presentation by Henry Gage from Westview Environmental Law. I think it's on the website, Facebook. Yeah, it's on YouTube, so you can find it. How can you find it on Facebook? On our okay, yeah, it's the slides and the video. Both slides and video. So I think he actually refutes some of the arguments made.
You're kidding me. Yeah, well, there's no point in reading that or listening to that then.
Well, especially about property rights. This doesn't change anything with property rights. But two questions. One is, what industries have contributed to your legal fund? And my second question is, you said you don't like uncertainty, and who does?
You don't like what?
You don't like uncertainty, and I agree with that. But if your constitutional challenge succeeds, and as a political scientist, I put up a lot of money saying we won't, but if I'm going to take me up on that. But 5-1. Would that apply? It would apply, would it not, to all BC legislation regarding quote unquote Indians? That's one of your grounds, the consistency of the Constitution of the 1867 Act. And to presume that would go at least back to the 1990s legislation on the BC Treaty Commission. Well, would it not mean unraveling all of the legislation that's already been?
No. What we're attacking is simply DRIPA and UNDRIP, and an order in council directing the ministers to negotiate a Section 7 agreement. That's the only thing we're attacking. We're not going after all of the British Columbia legislation at all.
What industries have contributed?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm various. I can say various. And I'll tell you this, is that a number of the larger contributors have made it clear that they wanted to remain anonymous, that they felt that they could not allow their name to be associated with this for fear of some kind of retribution or some kind of some pushback or from the government. And I find it sad that that has to happen. So, but I will tell you that there have been various industries that have contributed, and some I don't even know. They've gone directly to our law firm, and I've said I don't want to know because I don't want to be the one who's alleged that I've spilled the beans on them. But I can tell you, I get calls and we get emails on a fairly regular basis. One of the more recent ones was a fellow who had a mine in northern Vancouver Island, and his lease or tenure on his mine was reduced to a monthly tenure. Well, and he says, I can't operate a mine on a monthly tenure. So basically, we're going to tell his mine could be shut down at any time. I also got a call not too recently from a fellow who, what did he have up in Squamish? I can't remember if it was a mine or something along those lines, and basically his tenure was not being renewed because, in his words, the First Nations did not want it to be proceeded with. So it's affecting, it's certainly resource companies for sure, and it also affects the tourism, people who want to use Crown land or have access to Crown land and what have you. And there are a lot of people that are extremely concerned that this is really going to affect British Columbia, and certainly how we are governed going forward. The ladies first.
Barbara's getting sore. Have you received a legal opinion with regards to a new government coming in and getting rid of DRIPA? Is that a possibility? The federal government or, well.
So the hope that we had, and I've tried to keep this non-political. I don't want to lean on any political party one way or the other, but I believe that John Rustad in his campaign, one of his platforms was that he was going to repeal DRIPA. So that's a possibility if he ever gets into power.
But he also stated just before the election too, he was prepared to give away 20% of the provinces to the indigenous. He stated that too. So
Yeah, well, these politicians, that's why you got to keep, you got to be aware, you got to keep educated, you got to keep seeing what's going on, right? But he did say he was going to repeal DRIPA, so we were going to be holding his feet to the fire. And certainly, Chris Moore, we were going to hold Chris Moore's feet to the fire if that didn't happen, if John Rustad was elected. Go ahead, sir.
I'm just curious, there seems to be this kind of, by the government at all levels, municipal, provincial, and federal, where there seems to be this divide and conquer in the smaller rural areas of BC and Canada. And I'll give you an example. You take a land developer like Lee Kaishin at Concord Pacific that basically got all the expo land and things like that. There doesn't seem to be in Vancouver, Metro Vancouver, the same sort of wedge that's dividing the community. The Musqueam Band is working in cooperation with the city with those new towers. Like, for example, for the south end of the Burrard Street Bridge, and there seems to be more of a, but it just seems in all these rural areas is where this is affecting the citizens of the community, but it's not, I mean, Powell River is a perfect example.
I agree that it does seem to be a divide and conquer. The other thing that concerns me is that during the last election, apart from John Rustad, who probably didn't spend a lot of time on it, I never heard a politician say that they were running their campaign on the basis that they wanted to give chunks of British Columbia away to First Nations. And so this giving away Haida Gwaii to the First Nation there came as a total shock, I think, to almost everybody. And I think that the governments should be far more open and transparent with respect to their negotiations. What's their budget? Like on this foundation agreement, how did they come up with $31 million? Like, what was the budget for that? How do you rationalize that? Did you pick a number out of the air? Where did it come from? I don't know. They go and they go in secret. They negotiate in secret, and then they come out with these agreements already completed, and we just sit around going, oh, okay, right? So it's we really need some more transparency, and this DRIPA UNDRIP is going on right under our noses, and this implementation program has gone on for 5 years, and nobody knows about it. So, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so in the campaign, the election campaign, provincial election campaign, Premier Eby, you know, the land title, he was going to change the land, amend the Land Title Act, right?
The Land Act.
Or the Land Act. And then because there was so much opposition and uproar, he just shut it down. And that was just before the election. And then he promised to the people of British Columbia that he would not bring that up again. And John Rustad, I think, asked him that point blank, and he admitted that he would not bring it up again. Does he have to amend the Land Act to implement DRIPA?
Yeah, it was my lawyer's conclusion that they were going to amend the Land Act to permit the Section 7 agreement to have the teeth it needed to permit the sharing of the statutory decision-making power with the First Nations. So they were going to have to amend the Land Act. Here's another thing. You would think we're on the the front lines. We're the people that are going to be affected by this first, right? And the Minister Cullen is saying, well, I've been in consultation with various people about it and what have you. Well, they never once came to PHARA. They never come to Pender Harbour. I don't think they came to the SCRD to talk about this. You know.
So how can they implement the province implement DRIPA if they don't amend the act? And if that's the case, then Premier Eby is not telling the truth to people.
Yeah, I think somebody said you just answered your own question there, so.
And I hope people understand that, right?
Right.
To those that voted for him.
I think he did say at one point that he was going to back away from the Land Act amendments, but I think he also has I think he also said he was going to try to attack it in a different fashion. And what I'm worried about is this announcement tomorrow that he's going to tell us how he's decided to do it. It may not be Land Act amendments, it may be something else. And the foundation agreement, I think, is something that might be being amended in our case. So.
Well, as far as Nathan Cullen goes, he found out in October that he's got punted. You know?
Yeah, and I feel good about that because he was telling the world that he was consulting with people. He wasn't consulting with us, and we're the affected people. And secondly, he was saying that this won't affect existing tenures. Well, that's BS because all our tenures have to be renewed on a fairly regular basis. And so if you go to a joint decision-making process, it's going to affect the next time you go to renew your tenure, right? Whether it be a mining or forestry or anything like that. So, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I think when people are saying how can this happen, it's because the majority of the votes are in the large centers. And they don't care what happens in the smaller areas because most of them have never gone out of their area. I'm just generalizing that, but it's quite true. So they don't care what happens in Pender Harbour or Powell River or any little place because they don't even exist to them. So that's how this goes by, and they just let it wash because it doesn't matter. Who cares what happens up there? That's right. It's us that care about things and are going to make the difference. Just as you say, small voices, but numbers will add up. Because you can only take advantage of us in small communities so long before there's issues coming up. And you can see that in how the vote went in the last provincial election. You can see where it's concentrated. And the people that are dealing with natural resources, whether it's your works and water things and that, it's the whole province. Anything to do with natural resources. It's under that same area. It doesn't affect us, and yet it does affect the people of the city because so many of the taxes and the different, all sorts of income goes down to the coast or to Victoria and places like that, and it's coming from all the natural resources that we have been utilizing and harvesting for years. So that is part of the issue, is the fact that they don't care. If it's not their area, it doesn't matter. Yeah.
Gentleman in the back.
Just one question to the percentage of that one we asked you. How much have you spent on legal fees so far?
Everybody's interested in the numbers. I really don't like to talk about it. To be honest, it's expensive.
Do you have a GoFundMe page for it?
Or Give, Send, Go?
We don't have a GoFundMe page. The thinking of our group was that that's a bit tacky, and we didn't really want to waste any of the money with GoFundMe. But I will say that we're going to need hundreds of thousands of dollars to get this through the courts. We've got the petition filed. And once we get the response from the provincial government and the shishalh, we'll be campaigning again to get some more funding coming in so that we'll have enough money for the hearing. We're not doing it for the money, if you know what I mean. None of us are getting paid, but the lawyers aren't cheap, and But they've been wonderful to us. I have to say that Macmillan, and especially Robin Younger, has just been incredible. He's been in the paper, he's been on media, he's done all kinds of work, basically for free for us, and he's outstanding. So, but we can use we can use any money that we can get. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so, we in Powell River support you,
Right.
donate. If they attack us, will you help us?
Sure.
Good one.
Yeah, well, we will support you, and as Christine says, that's what we're kind of doing now. We're preparing you for what you're liable to see going forward.
So,
You know what disturbs me is what you used to when the gentleman in the back asked about, who your donors were, and sadly, we live in a it seems a world now where if you're not on the right side, there is retaliation. So I can completely understand why the people wouldn't want to disclose the donating money to the cause, and that's what's very upsetting.
Yeah, it's a sad commentary on where we are, but you can't, you have to protect your business.
so shishalh, we know, is affecting the Pender Harbour area, and shishalh comes up the coast further up towards Lang Bay. They claim that area right up into Lang Bay, which is in our area now.
Yeah, what's with that?
Right. So have you had anybody from the Lang Bay area south joining in with your group? Because it's going to affect places like Salter Bay, Vancouver Bay, Nelson Island. All those areas are in that catchment base.
Yeah, I can't tell you for sure. I know that there's some people that are full-timers that live on those islands. There's Nelson, and then just north of Nelson is Hardy Island, yeah, and then there's a few islands in there, and I know there's one lady there who's lived there for 20, 30 years. She's a full-timer, and they're getting after her about her dog,
Yep.
right? Everything in the SWIA, they're doing a survey on, and they're trying to bring everybody under this regime. So, but I can't say for sure if this side here has got a hold of us, but hopefully they know about it.
Because we know that they claim that far. They claim up into the back mountains. We had to get their permission when they built the last hut up on the Sentinel Ridge. Right. They had to get permission from the Shishalh band because they claim that area.
Right.
It was just ridiculous. But when it does come our way, all the lakes, Lois Lake is in that catchment area, but Powell Lake and all the back lakes in here are all going to be affected the same way. Now, going your way, does it go down as far as Gibson's and into the mill down there, Port Mellon?
No, the
Okay.
Squamish come up
Squamish,
to...
grab that one.
Roberts, halfway down Roberts Creek.
Yeah, halfway down Roberts Creek.
Okay.
So they don't come all the way up. But there's a lot of lakes up on the
Yep.
north end of the Shishalh Peninsula there, right? So, all right, well,
Okay.
unless there's anything else, go ahead. I've got a late ferry. You guys got me trapped here till 9:55.
Well, you have to go when you have to go.
Yeah, okay.
It sounds to me like you've had more, the provincial government and bureaucrats particularly have been more your cause of your grief than even the nation. Now, you may be being very diplomatic in what you deliver to us, but maybe this is dreaming and maybe this is naive. Is there the possibility of taking that kind of martial arts approach of getting your opponents or your perceived opponents direction to work for you, and you're already going to court? That definitely speaks to me of a failure with the bureaucracy. Has that been tried? Is it a possibility to work more directly with the nation to try to resolve this? Because this is a profound problem for everyone.
We've sent various letters to the Shishalh, and I'm not sure that any have been responded to. It may have been, but we have sent out some olive branches over time and said, you know, and there was a time there that I thought, being a divorce lawyer and dealing with high emotions, I thought that if I could get everybody in the same room for 2 hours, I could probably get 99% of it settled, right? But the thing is that this is just my opinion, that the First Nation feels that they only need or should be negotiating or talking to the government, and government to government is what they're looking for. And to put it in the best perspective, I suppose from their perspective, PHARA, we have nothing to give. We have no right to give them anything. We can't agree to anything. All we can take away. Well, we don't want you to have that. We want docks here, we want the red zone this way, we want this, that, and the other. And so basically we don't have anything to offer them, whereas the provincial government, they're the ones that can convey land, $33 million, and a process that they're satisfied with. So really from a pragmatic point of view, it really doesn't make much sense for them to talk to us. And they don't.
They just want the money. That's it. They don't care about anything else.
Well, they seem to want more than money. They seem to want rights and title and control. So anyway, I don't want to throw them under the bus. I am trying to be diplomatic, but from a pragmatic point of view, they're really just interested in talking to the government.
They don't care.
Well, maybe we should be able to participate in the election of the chief, right? If they're going to have a rule over us.
Well, that is an argument one can make down the road. I'll phone you on that one.
Okay, I was just gonna say, you have one thing to offer, which is to be on good neighborly terms. And I just wanted to share something I saw today. You know, the rich get richer, and the poor get divided. And that's again why I'm really urging people to keep dialogue going. And so I really appreciate that Westview does hold these public things so we can hear.
When they talk about crown land, who is that? Is that like the monarchy in England still, or what?
Yeah, King Charles owns it all, right?
Well, they came up here and they signed a memorandum of agreement to give lands to the native Indians where the mill is. And the Chinese shut down our mill, which the government allowed them to do. And then we heard like 2 weeks later, that memorandum of agreement wasn't actually, the provincial government wasn't actually in a position to actually do that. And then it sort of thought, well then that's kind of weird. Now we heard that the Chinese company that was formerly Paper Excellence, and it is now Donpar, they bought $5 billion worth of companies on the east coast, is giving the native Indians 120 acres, if I'm not mistaken. I think I read that somewhere. And so, whatever, I don't know.
I wish I could help you with all that. I've got trouble keeping track of what's going on.
Well, there's all sorts of stuff going on. So then, who can give away crown land, you know?
Well, it appears as though the provincial government can.
Yeah.
Oh. All right.
You have an hour and 15 minutes to make the ferry, and it'll take you half of that time to get there.
There we go. I think I'm going to close for now, and we'll go from there.